Hey everybody, I just want to preface this video by saying that I do not have stock footage of all of the games I'm going to be talking about this, and the footage of Minecraft you'll be seeing here is mainly to keep the video kind of better concise, or not concise, but I mean it's to keep it an actual video so you have something to watch. I don't really have the time, nor do I really have the effort to put a bunch of stock footage for all these games, and some of these games I don't even have installed anymore after I played them. So that's that. I apologize if you were getting to actually see any of the footage of the games I was talking about. This is more of an opinion piece than it is a gameplay piece, and I hope you'll understand that. Anyway, on with the show. Hello everybody, and welcome to a kind of a mix-up of what I've normally been doing. Recently I've been reviewing MMOs, giving my opinion about how MMOs work, how they function, what I like about them, what I dislike about them. But today is a different extension of that, and this is about basically games that advertise themselves as alphas or betas and allow you to buy into them to get alpha and beta access. Just basically buy an alpha game for full price, but you get access to all the updates. And also, I'm also here to talk about games that are full production AAA titles that release as buggy beta-esque games. Now, these two types of game categories are very much starkly different. Usually, the ones that allow you to buy into the alpha and beta are run by indie game development companies, and usually AAA game titles that are released buggy and beta-like are run by AAA gaming companies. But first, we're gonna there's also a third point, which is games, full production AAA titles that allow you to buy into the alpha and beta. I can only think of a couple off the top of my head. The one I have written down is, we'll discuss it later, but I'm sure there's more out there. I've done kind of limited research on those types, mainly because it was brought up to me very recently. But I wanted to go ahead and push this video. And this mainly talks about the main concern I have for the video games industry as a whole. And the first topic is games that are advertised as alphas and betas where you buy into the alpha beta. Now, we're talking about games like Minecraft, Trove, Rust, 7 Days to Die, The Forest, StarMade, all those games where the game, Minecraft before its release. And see, that's where this kind of niche market came from, was a lot of people saw what Minecraft did as a production game and was able to sell itself as a production game, and were looking to capitalize off of that, looking to push out their own game as a front, using that method of they give us money for access to a live status of the game, and we can continue building off of that. So I'm going to discuss the pros and the cons, in my opinion, of what this type of sales system offers. One of the big pros is the community gets to basically help shape the game. You know, their dollar counts, their feedback counts. It allows them to shape the game into something they want. Very good thing, because some developers can get to a point where they're like, well, we're kind of out of ideas and we need to add more stuff to the game. The game is dry, the game is bland. Let's turn to our player base. That's a pro. Another pro is it allows these indie gaming companies to be able to push out a product rather than having it sit on some hard drive until it finally magically gets enough money to be able to be an actual release of a game. That's a really big problem nowadays, is AAA gaming companies really crowd the market with these kind of overhyped, oversold games, and it makes it really hard for any kind of low indie developer that isn't affiliated as a studio with any of these AAA gaming companies to be able to put out this kind of content. And through the amazingness that is Kickstarter, Steam, these companies are capable of putting out fairly quality games. Obviously works in progress because they're alpha betas, but fairly quality games without needing this huge amount of prior experience or just knowing somebody in the business. So another pro of these alpha beta games is that they're usually cheap. And that's good for the consumer, because it's really good for the buyer, because that allows them to be able to buy this game early before it gets popular, have access to all of its updates and whatnot, and say you got this before it got expensive. I mean, I remember when people bought Minecraft for, what was it, $5? Back whenever it was still like really early beta. And then nowadays it's like, what, Minecraft's like $30. So yeah, I mean, it's really good, not as an investment per se, because you're not going to be able to get anything out of it, but in terms of just saving your own money to be able to buy that kind of game early before it gets popular. But then it's a gamble whether or not it gets popular or not. That's all the pros I can really think of. You got your saving consumers money, you've got being able to produce a game, and you've got your being able to put the community into the game development process. Now, I'm going to move to cons, and the first con is actually a really big con, and it's the same as the first pro. The community feels like they need to drive the game development. It's a very bad thing, as it is a very good thing. Sometimes games with lots of early development input with players is both a pro and a con. Even games that are as old as 10 plus years old. For example, World of Warcraft. You get so much input from your player base, and you try to put so much stuff into the game that it starts to become bland. That their focus is spread so thin that you can't tell what the direction of the game is anymore. And that really rings true for WoW, for me with WoW, because it seems like, in terms of Blizzard development team, they spread themselves so thin across so many places. Because, hell, I mean, look at WoW. Let's start it off. You have questing. Then you have group questing. Then you have dungeons, heroic dungeons, challenge mode dungeons, scenarios, heroic scenarios, raids, LFR raids, normal mode raids, heroic raids, mythic raids coming in WoD. You have PvP, which entails battlegrounds, random battlegrounds, rated battlegrounds, arena, which comes in 3 flavors, 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5. You have open world PvP out in the world, and you have zoned PvP like Ashran or Wintergrasp or whatever. And it's these types of things that, and then you also have like pet battles, and you have mount collecting, and you have all the old content that's still in the game, which, by the way, that's not a bad thing. It'd be really bad if they cut off all that old content off, and you weren't able to access, like, Tempest Keep. But, on a broader perspective, all of these things bloat the game. And while World of Warcraft is by no means an alpha or beta, and is by no means an indie game, it still suffers from the same idea that an indie game can suffer from, which is too much user input and too not very much developer direction. Like, developers are very open, and that can be both a good and a bad thing. You gotta be able to tell your player base, look, we don't want to go that way. We want to go this way. And in some cases, they have. In some cases, they really haven't. In terms of World of Warcraft. And it happens a lot with, these alpha beta games. Like, for example, I think the guns of Rust gets way too much attention. You know? I think in my opinion, that Minecraft, the whole alchemy system of Minecraft was just tacked on and is just a bloat. So that's the biggest con, in my opinion, is that players really, they can drive it to be good and they can drive it to be bloated. And you don't want a bloated game. That's not a good thing. Another con is, another con is nowadays, in the year 2014, you actually have a lot of these. You have a lot of these games that are out there getting kickstarted, getting put up on Steam, greenlit by the community. You have a whole lot of these games, and there's so much competition for the buck. One sec. And it's starting to get to the point where it's getting harder for an indie development company to actually be able to convince people what their game does. I mean, for example, Trove. For example, Trove is developed by a AAA gaming company. It's developed by Trion, who does they're doing Arcade, which is another game I'll be talking about later, and they do Rift, the MMO Rift. And they by no means need to beg for money. Yet here you are, you got these founders packages that go up all the way to like $3,000, where you just be able to get all of this sleuth of shit plus a whole zone made off of your, out of your mind, out of your imagination. So it's really a con because there's a lot of competition, especially when marketing these things. If you have a decent marketing team, which usually you probably don't, in the indie thing, there's if you don't have a good marketing team, there's usually a better chance for your game to go under the radar. Under the radar games don't get that much funding, blah blah blah. We've all seen it before. What else? It's really it. It's just a lot of competition, and usually YouTubers will help out certain games. Like, they pick up a certain game, and they're like, "This game is awesome. Go support it." Like, for example, perfect example is Town of Salem. I would have never known Town of Salem. Hell, I would have never known Transistor. Just this whole sleuth of games I now have in my collection because of YouTubers. YouTubers do a lot in terms of spreading around the ideas and the ability to buy these indie games that do not have the marketing whatsoever to be able to make it anywhere in a news network. Not saying that I actually follow the news, but you get my drift. So that's generally my opinion about these games is generally I like to play them. I love Minecraft. Trove is fun but needs work. 7 Days to Die and Rust are both like in Trove. They need work. They're fun. They were fun for a bit, but they need work. I personally have not played The Forest, but I've seen it played, and I'd like it for it to have a multiplayer. Other than that, it looks like a pretty good game. I've heard there's some bugs in it. And StarMade, I played it a year ago, and I don't really have any opinions on the more recent things they've done with it, but from what I can remember back then, that game... How do I put it? That game was fun until you ended up winning the game, which was you get this big-ass tractor beam on your starter ship, you go to a planet or a space station, and you strip mine it and go sell the stuff, get billions of credits, and build a new ship. That game lost its direction then. Now I can't comment on it. I haven't played it. I don't have really any intention to play any of the updated versions unless something catches my eye and I'm like, ooh, shiny. But basically, as far as I'm concerned, you won the game as soon as you were able to get more than 1 billion credits. My brother, for example, made a 3 billion credit spaceship. Something like that. It was just this insane ass ship that had like huge railguns and whatever. The game got old quick. It got really repetitive. There was nothing much really could do beyond build. And it didn't really, at the time, it didn't really have that much modding capability, which modding capability is another section entirely. And Minecraft has modding capability, and I'm pretty sure 7 Days to Die and Rust can have modding capability, but Trove, knowing Trion, it might not. And that would really reduce the amount of fun I can have with these games. Because I think the future of most games is player-generated content. Especially in the indie market. Like, if you can get a bunch of dedicated players to be able to get into your game and to be able to make a mod for it or a custom story or whatever, and to be able to put that on the market and have other people play it, it extends the life and the relevance of your game. Like, if I was stuck playing vanilla Minecraft and there was no way to mod it or make it even at least a little bit more interesting, if I couldn't add mods like Mine Factory, Industrial Craft, or Project Red, if I couldn't do that, the game would have been dead to me, 3 years ago. I would have gotten bored after the first couple of times I played it in the beta. Game basically ends after you get full set of diamond armor, enchanted diamond armor, and a weapon. And that's the same kind of thing. Eventually you get to the point where you master the game and you want something new. And usually these kinds of developers, especially indie developers, won't be actively adding anything new, especially at the rate in which you can consume it. That's why player-generated content is really good, because it gives people in the off time that essentially work for free to make these cool-ass mods to be able to put in your game and just make the game more interesting for more people to play it. You know? I think Minecraft did a really good job in its game. I think if they did it on a better engine, like, no offense against Notch or anything, but Java is shit. In order to run the mods that I have on it, when I need to commit 4 gigs of RAM to Java, that's a problem. That's an efficiency problem. And, yeah. Other than that, Minecraft is a good success. My biggest problems with these other games is that their modability is relatively low, or they're so new that there are virtually no mods for it beyond the vanilla game, which can get old really, really quick. And the relevance of the game pseudo drops. I mean, I remember when everybody was up to tots for whenever 7 Days to Die released the Winter Zone. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's amazing! Military grade weapons, blah blah." And I was like, I played it twice. What I did was, and they had released also the gun making, the gun pouring, metal smithing, stuff like that. And my brother and I played. We built up a fort. We got a bunch of metal together because these iron veins just come in these huge fucking pockets. We get enough metal together. We found 4 sniper rifles. Got all the parts, or it was 4 or 5. Got all the parts to the sniper rifle molded, and basically from that point on, we had infinite sniper rifles, infinite shotguns, and infinite bullets. And we ran to Radtown and killed them. That lasted about 4, maybe 5 hours. And that's what I'm talking about. This big update really didn't add all that much to the game other than a more interesting way to make guns and to mass produce guns, and a new zone that was not entirely impressive in my opinion. So again, that's why I say player generated content should be a focus for these games. To be able to make their game modded, to be able to mod their game should be a huge focus for these kinds of indie games. Hell, AAA titles, even. Like, you should be able to mod Battlefield 4. Like, and DICE saying that essentially we as players and gamers are too stupid to understand the tools when they are so pompous enough to be toting around their whole Frostbite 3 shit when their whole engine is still using a fucking console command menu opened by the tilde key. Like, if people can code in Java, what makes you think we can't code in Frostbite 3? Or Unreal 3? Or, yeah, like, that's a whole other issue entirely, is just AAA gaming companies being really reluctant to allow player-generated content, which is weird because, like it does for indie games, player-made content increases the relevancy of AAA titles, much like it did for Skyrim. And in fact, a lot of what modders did for Skyrim ended up fixing the game, which I'll get to in the next video, because the next video is going to be about games that were AAA titles that released in alpha/beta states, and that includes a few games. So, for now, I'm going to cut it short and leave it at this. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this discussion, I guess you could say, please like, favorite, subscribe, comment, all that social media mumbo jumbo below. If you want to start a conversation with me, leave a comment. I will reply, hopefully. Usually I'm good at catching them. Google's like, hey, have an alert. So, yeah. Please, by all means, start a conversation with me. I want to know you guys' opinion on this kind of topic, as well as the next topic I'm going to discuss about. But, as always, I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. One slight addendum I want to make to this first topic, since it's the shortest. I failed to talk about AAA titles of which you buy into the alpha/beta, and that's a really tough decision. That's a really tough topic for me because I can only think of a couple off the top of my head, and the one that really stands out to me is a newer one. It's called ArcheAge, and it's developed by Trion, and it's a full production game. It's already released in Asia, and ArcheAge is kind of this open world sandbox MMO. It's like kind of what Elder Scrolls Online was supposed to be, but my biggest issue with it is that it really feels like Trion's trying to get a lot of bang for its buck. I mean, they're basically charging you for the lowest package, which only gets you into the beta, guaranteed access to the beta, is $60. And to be able to get into the alpha right now, it's like $150. And, that's just a lot of money for me. Even if it is a AAA title, even if it's already released and possibly even successful, even if it is a free-to-play or a buy-once free-to-play MMO, I just think that kind of cost is a little ridiculous, you know? And I guess it's something to be expected, but I think these buy into AAA game titles are redundant. You know, you buy into their alpha and beta, but for what point? I mean, are you actually testing? Are you actually giving feedback? Or are they just showing off the game to you while they go on their own way? And that's my issue with these buy into the AAA game titles, is that there usually is no back and forth between the developers and the community like there is with the indie games that you buy into the alpha and beta for. There usually is no back and forth, and that's a problem. That's a really big problem. And I want to say that I look forward to ArcheAge. I do to an extent, because a lot of the things that they're doing are quite desirable, and I really want to play at launch. But that said, I don't like the idea of having to buy into a AAA game title into its alpha and beta. Either it should be an opt-in alpha and beta, like it's done in the past, or it should be a much lower cost. $60 is a lot of fucking money. It might not be to some people, but $60 that's like food for a week for me. So, what you will. I think, and to any of the other AAA game titles that are offering you to buy into the betas, unless the buy into the beta includes the full game, which I'm not even sure ArcheAge does, Unless the buy into beta includes the full game when it releases, I don't think they're very much worth it. Even if they are as cheap as $5–10, but then that is up to you at your own discretion. You know, if you think you'd have fun testing this game's beta, then go ahead and dunk that $5–10 on it. But if it's charging you $60 to just be in the beta, and you still have to pay again to be able to get the full game when it releases, no, just don't. Just don't. That's a money. That's a company being a douchebag, and no. So yeah, that's basically what I want to talk about. Is this last topic is very cancerous. It's not a good thing at all. And it should be shunned, honestly, this kind of buy into the beta. Hell, WoW had the buy into the beta thing with Mop. I didn't like it then. I still don't like it. I bought it. I did the whole annual pass thing. I still think it's dumb. I bought the whole annual pass thing, canceled it, and then bought Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls later. You know? Annual pass, in my opinion, was a waste to me. Because I never actually got any testing done because the amount of people that were on the game. And it was just crashing my client every time because Blizzard can't make a stable client. And I feel like that's going to be the same thing unless they put a much higher cost on it. I feel like this is going to be, maybe it's because they put a higher cost on it. ArcAge isn't allowing people into their alpha because it's going to be, cut because it's $150. And, the beta costs $60, but they're going to have it more fleshed out later on. I don't know. We'll see when the beta comes around. And hopefully I get a key and not have to pay any money for it. But knowing me, I'll just end up dunking $60 on it, being like, yep, got it. So yeah, addendum cleared. Five extra minutes, no harm done. I want to go ahead and thank you guys for watching again. Please like, subscribe, favorite, comment, all that social media mumbo jumbo below. Leave me a conversation. I love discussing these topics with people. It's my favorite hobby. I love thoughtful debate. It's probably one of my favorite things to do with people. As long as they're thoughtful and not, blinded by opinion. So I'm always open to accept other viewpoints. I just usually like to express my opinion first. But yeah, leave a comment below. And as always, I've been GuruGodX, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.